I am joined now by another of the legends here in Jones County. Thank you so much for joining us here and taking part in these interviews. It's Glenn Spivey, who, what a biography you've got. I mean, you've been an important member of this community for so long. You ran one of the businesses here for 57 years in Trenton Hardware. And I think that's where we'll start is how do you keep, I mean, in this day and age of a business will start and then it's over in 3 or 4 years, or at the most a business will go 15 or 20 years.
Right.
How did you keep Trenton Hardware going for so long?
Well, I graduated from Jones Central High School in '61 in June, and I went to work for Mr. Fred Foscue at Trenton Hardware in December the 1st, 1961.
Okay.
And he had been there since in the 40s. And I worked for him, and I think I worked for him. I worked there 25 years, no, 19 years. And I got a chance for another job, and I was talking to him. He said, well, I think I'm going to give you an incentive to stay. So he gave me 25% of the business to stay with him. And then he said, now in 5 years, you have an option for 25 more percent. And I'm going to give my son the other 50%. So at the end of the 5 years, we sat down and I said, okay, I'm interested. He said, well, I tell you what, let me talk to you tomorrow. I said, well, he said, I got something I need to talk to you about. So next day we sat down and talked. He said, my son doesn't want the other 50%. So you go ahead and think about the 75%. So then I started digging, he told me what the figure was, and then I started working. But anyhow, I managed to work out the finance, and he financed it for me. So I just paid him yearly payments. And he worked for me for 5 more years just to help me learn more about it. But basically, after about 5 years, I knew about everything about the hardware business, because when you're 19 years old and you're put in a position, you've got to learn. You just learn how to do it, the books, the business and everything, and the buying. Anyhow, I bought it, and let's see, and I stayed there from December the 1st, '61. I was there 57 years. Got up, went to work, full blocks to work and full blocks home.
That is amazing. Just in a small community like this, it's not like you ran a business in Charlotte or Raleigh. I mean, you knew every one of your customers when they came in, didn't you?
I knew the customers. When I did the books, I knew their account numbers. I didn't have to really look. And when somebody asked me where something was in the store, I could say it's right over yonder on that shelf. And it was great. And the community back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, the community sort of supported the local businesses.
Mm-hmm.
It seemed like in the later 90s, they just started not supporting, going to Kinston. I was selling merchandise cheaper in Kinston, but they drive to Kinston and buy it. And one day a gentleman was talking to me. He said, Glenn, he said, I can tell you why. I said, why, man? He said, they're envious of you. You came to Trenton in 1961 and you didn't have anything. Now you own a business. You're the town clerk manager. You've been a fireman since 1962. He said you're in the American Legion. You built you a home. You bought you a business. I said, well, they had the same opportunities, to do things that I did. But he said, well, that's the problem, man. I said, well, I'll just deal with it. So anyhow, we hung on for 2017. But in 2017, it was time for me to stay. I was 70 years old, and my brother was, 74.
Mm-hmm.
And he was 78. He worked with me. And we decided just to shut her down because it was time to slow down.
Yeah.
But
it's time to enjoy some retirement,
That didn't happen. So we sold the business, and they told me they were going to keep the hardware store, but they didn't. They started working out of it. But then in 2018, when the hurricane, September, let's see, today's the 12th, 4 days from now, September 2018, there was 24 inches of water in it. And I was thankful to God that I didn't still own it, because I had 48 inches of water in my house.
Wow.
And firehouse flooded, the American Legion hut flooded. I was commander of the Legion post. I was secretary and treasurer of the fire department, owner of town clerk, and then my personal losses and everything. So I lost 35 pounds in 90 days.
Tell me about your military service.
Well, I joined the National Guard in 1966.
Okay.
And I went to, it was about a year before we went off to basic. I went to Fort Campbell, Kentucky. I left Trenton in a pair of blue jeans, a short sleeve shirt, and a windbreaker.
Okay.
I got to Fort Campbell, Kentucky. It was 0 degrees. And we did not get any fatigues and coats until about a week later. So it was tough.
Wow.
And, but I pulled my basic training in Fort Campbell, Kentucky. It averaged 12 degrees for 8 weeks up there.
Wow.
I thought I'd freeze to death. It reminds me of what my brother said when he was in career. He said it was the coldest place he ever been in his life.
Wow.
Anyhow, I finished my training in Fort Campbell. Then they shipped me to Fort Sill, Oklahoma. We left Fort Campbell on a C-130, and it was about 10 degrees. And we got to Fort Sill, Oklahoma. It was about 80.
Goodness gracious! What a difference.
Yeah. So then I pulled my advanced training in the advanced military howitzer unit.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went through all that training for 8 weeks. And then when I got back to my headquarters here in Newbern, they had changed us over to MPs.
Oh.
So then I served as an MP for 4 years.
Okay.
But I got to see some of the United States, and
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed a lot of friends. And we were looking at TV one night, and A-Team was on. And I told my wife, I said, I know that man. She said, you don't know him. I said, yes, I do. I went and got my annual from the Army. Mr. T from A-Team.
Yes.
I pulled basic training with Mr. T in Fort Campbell, Kentucky.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, tell me a little bit about growing up here in Trenton. What was
Okay.
that like? Oh, and obviously, I mean, we're talking,
Oh, yeah.
you're 80 years old, so, 65, 70 years ago to now,
Right.
there have been some changes. What are some of those, the
Right.
biggest changes that you've seen?
And well, growing up in Jones County, of course, I was born 8 miles out of town in my grandmother's and grandfather's house.
Okay.
And we lived on a dirt road, which is Wise Fork Road now.
Mm-hmm.
When I was 18 months old, I walked down in front of a car on the dirt road, pulling my wagon. The gentleman hit me with his car, and I broke my leg.
Mm-hmm. How old were you?
18 months.
18 months.
Yeah, I was doing something I shouldn't have been doing on the road. But anyhow, it drugged me under the car, but it didn't kill me. It just broke my leg. So he put me in the car and took me to the hospital, and they set my leg, but it didn't set right. So then after about a week, they had to re-break it.
Mm.
And then my mom tells me how I was in a crib with a frame over it, and this leg holding me up
Mm-hmm.
to keep it straight. And I hung there, I don't know how long. But anyhow, I finally got over that. And my dad took out a savings bond on money that he had collected. And when I got 19, I took my bond and cashed it in and bought the land to build my house on in Trenton.
Wow.
Yeah. But it was a country life. I had 3 brothers, 2 sisters. And just growing up, I think back now to mom and dad that when they had all that family around the table,
Mm-hmm.
how much money it must have taken back in those days in the 50s to feed, clothe, and take care of 6 children and pay the bills and everything. But luckily in 1943, I think 43, Daddy told me that he got a bathroom in the house. Well, Ruling Gas Company in Kinston had a deal. If you would put in a gas stove, a gas water heater, they'd put you in a bathroom for just the cost of the materials and your septic tank. So in 1944, we had a bathroom in our house, which most people did not. I hear people say now they didn't get a bathroom. They were sick, until the 60s and stuff
Mm-hmm.
like that. But it was we had our rounds as boys, brothers and sisters. We had some tangles, and we got spanked a lot because we did things we shouldn't have done. But
No.
yeah, man, especially when they went to PTA meeting, sometimes they got back. A couple of us got a whipping because we had done something, and your sisters would always tell on you. They would tell on you every time.
Yeah.
But anyhow, we grew up growing tobacco, soybeans, corn, and of course then we had mules, and I trucked tobacco when I was a little boy, and then I trucked tobacco with the tractor. And then 1954, Daddy bought a silent flame tobacco harvester. And that's when we had to sit down and crop tobacco.
Mm-hmm.
And in the family, My mom and sister, they did the looping on top. My brother drove, my dad and my three other brothers, two other brothers, we did the cropping. So nobody had to show up to work. We were all there. And
the advantage of having 6 children,
that's
right?
right. And mom, every day she would plan. I called it dinner and supper back then, but now it's lunch and dinner. But anyhow, she would in the afternoons she would plan the meal for the next day and cook it that night. Next morning she'd get up and get all that prepared and ready, and then she'd cook breakfast for all of us. And Daddy and we boys would go take out the box and put it up. My sister would help mom, but they did that 5 days a week. And then on Saturday, they go to Kinston, buy groceries, and they take us we go to the Carolina Theater and watch the movie every Saturday morning because that was a ritual. And he gave us enough money to get in the movie and a box of popcorn or drink. But most of the time it was me and BC and Doris. And I lost my younger sister. She was 13. Oh, but it was great. A good family life, country living, playing ball Sunday afternoon in the front yard.
Now, when you say playing ball, you mean baseball or
baseball, football, basketball. And my grandparents lived 200 yards down the road. And we had a thing on Sunday morning during the summer. There was a gentleman up on Beaver Creek had a big watermelon patch. Well, Sunday morning we'd go down and get us a couple of watermelons and throw them in the creek, and they would float down the creek.
Okay.
And that afternoon we'd go down to the creek. They were nice and cold. We get them out of the creek and have watermelon on the riverbank.
Doggone it! Now I want watermelon. Thank you, Mr. Spivey.
But that was and we go camping back in the woods and things like that. And but it was country life was a great life. You didn't have to worry about computers and I don't know when we got a television. I used to go down to Uncle Gaylor, my granddaddy's brother, had a little country store over there on Green Road. And every Friday night I'd go down and watch the Gillette boxing matches. That was entertainment Friday night because we didn't have car. We had one car and didn't have no way to go anywhere. But anyhow, we just had a great time and fellowship at the store and drinking a 5-cent Coca-Cola or Pepsi Cola, and it was wonderful. And then, like I said, I graduated from Jones Central in '61 and went to work and just worked there. And I took over the Trenton town clerk job in 1962 when Miss Lois Brock was the town clerk, and she decided she wanted to quit. And Mr. Foskey was on the town board, so he confronted me about taking the clerk's job. So I took it, and it was. But back in '62, there was very little business to do at a town board meeting. And Mr. Foskey also, he was in charge of the Trenton Cemetery as far as the plots and keeping the map up to date and selling the plots and everything. And he was also the sewer commissioner to work on our town sewer system. Well, guess who learned all of that?
I'm guessing you.
I learned it.
There you go.
I learned how to fix the sewer lines. I learned how to, sell plots in the cemetery and all of that. So I still manage all of that too. And then I joined the American Legion in 1966 when I got in the military. And I've been commander for 22 years now. And it's been a good life. And got 2 children. I have 6 grandchildren and 3 great-grandchildren.
Wow.
And everything is just good.
That is awesome. I know another thing that you've been very involved with is the Trenton Volunteer Fire Department.
Oh, yes.
You've got to be very proud of your time that you've spent with that too.
Yeah, I joined that in 1962 also.
Wow.
And I was served in all the offices, but the final job I wound up with was Secretary and Treasurer. And I did that for 35 years.
Wow.
And I just gave it up. I gave it up 2 years ago. And I'm still a fireman, but the modern technology of computers and grants and all that stuff, and I just decided it was time for me to take a break. But you know what retirement means?
I have no idea.
It means you don't go to the same place and do the same thing for the same day.
There you go.
That's all it is. Okay. Because you can retire, and of course I'm busier now. Of course I work with the town. I have a gentleman and we do the maintenance work and clean up, and we're working on a church over here next door. The town bought it, and we're going to bring it back to its original 1899 design.
Wow.
And we got a crew over there now to Goldsboro. They put a second floor in it back many years ago. Well, we've taken 3/4 of that floor out now, so the ceiling, you can see the ceiling from the floor.
Mm-hmm.
And we're getting the beam. We had to take beams out of it, steel beams. We've got those taken care of, and now we're getting ready to go inside and start finishing. And we've replaced all the weatherboard on the outside, and I'm in charge of that one too.
You're allowed to slow down a little bit, right?
Yes, but I'm not a slow down person.
Okay.
My wife, she gives me a hard time, but I told her, I said, babe, I said, I love Trenton. I've been here all my life, and I feel like that I just want to be part of it and help in any way I can. So that's what I do. And I've been running the town backhoe now for 40 years, so I can take it and reach out y'all and pick up a brick over yonder. So you learn how to run it.
That is incredible.
That's it. And the fire department, I fought a lot of fires, and I was an EMT for 30 years also in the rescue squad. And it served on they had me an 80th birthday party back in April, and my wife, she just started checking around, and we figured out I have 284 years of volunteering. Yeah. I get up at 7 o'clock every morning. Some mornings I have a part-time employee 2 days a week. We start at 8:30 every Monday and Tuesday morning. Sometimes on Wednesday morning, if I ain't got nothing to do, maybe 9 o'clock, I'll sleep late. And I mow grass. I mow the property for the American Legion. That's 6 acres of grass. And I mow the town and sewer sites and around town and clean up. My helping day, we've been cutting down. We've been cleaning up around oak trees. You know how the sprouts and everything. Mm-hmm. Every time you try to mow around it, they slap you in the face. Well, we've been eliminating those this morning. And we also, the town bought a lot on Lakeview Drive, and that's going to be a parking lot for people to park to visit our church. And the county's going to put in a kayak ramp down here on Lakeview Drive, supposed to. And that'll be the parking lot for all those people to be able to park. And we're building Heroes Park over here. It was designed out of thoughts about when Hurricane Florence. The fire department, rescue squad, county EMS, and Jones County Sheriff's Department. We have 4 laterals to it.
Wow.
There'll be a fountain in the middle, and we're going to have at each end of those units, there's going to be a plaque for each organization.
And when will that be finished, do you think?
It's in the works.
Yeah.
It's kind of like we got the concrete poured. Now we've got the topsoil in to get all the ground leveled and filled in. Then the beautification department's going to start planting flowers. And then the brick mason's going to build the columns at the end. Then we're going to get the plaques and put light it all up and everything. And the church is going to have a ramp out of the church over to it. And Dunn and Dalton and Kinston architects on the building. And we've got a lot in the pot and a lot going on. We got some grant money that we're using, and when it runs out, then we're going to start digging again.
Yeah. And
we're asking for donations. Anybody that would like to donate to the cause. And
how can they do that?
They can, and if they want to mail a check in, they can mail it to the town of Trenton, P.O. Box 399, Trenton, NC 28585. We're trying to get a website thing put together, but that's not that easy.
Yeah. Oh, I know.
But anyhow, we'll accept money, checks, and anything to help complete it. And like I said, my wife has been mayor for Trenton for 14 years,
okay.
And I've been a bookkeeper for 62 years.
Now, do you call her Mrs. Mayor?
No. I do in the meetings.
You do in the meetings. Very good.
Yeah, I do in the meetings. So that's respect.
Sir, thank you so very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.